Hungary, Austria, France, Germany, Italy, and England at a time when Europe was not the community it is today. And his career included university posts in England, Australia, Canada, and collaborations and consultations in many more countries in a time when travel was difficult in a different way than it is today. We don't have to contend so much with wading across crocodile-infested rivers to visit the schools that we visit. Even in retirement, he continued to contribute to his field, and this included work with teachers here in the Annapolis Valley and teaching here at Acadia University. And so it makes sense, in a way, for us to be part of honoring Zoltán Dienes in this way. Zoltán has twice as many earned doctorates as I do. And I don't know how many honorary doctorates this is going to make. The reason he has 2 doctorates and I only have 1, mine is in the field of mathematics education. And it was not possible for Zoltán to have a doctorate in mathematics education when he did his doctoral work because the field didn't exist. He is one of the inventors of the field of which I am a member. In many of the most influential inventions of recent years, most people have very little idea of who originated those inventions. People use cell phones and the World Wide Web every day in many cases without having the foggiest idea who is responsible for bringing those things into the world that we live in. And I think this is also true for many teachers. For someone who knows the work of Zoltán Dienes well, it is easy to see in any of the curriculum guides used in North America, in any of the textbook materials, traces of his thinking and his work throughout those documents, but without his name ever being mentioned or known by most of the people who are using his ideas now in classrooms all over the world. And I think part of that says something about the personality of not all inventors, but many inventors, that inventors value ideas more than they value the putting forth their own personal fame in the world.
I met your writings almost 50 years ago first. My professor at the university, I was studying to become a mathematics teacher. And my professor, Tamás Varga, gave us as a homework to read one of your papers on abstraction and generalization. And I thought, wow, that's something. And I actually didn't hope to meet you personally at that time. And of course, later on, I had the great honor to work together with you in Sherbrooke, Canada, where you was the director of the Centre de Recherche and Psychomathématique. And this was really a great time for me because I never ever had that kind of boss. I mean, you had much more ideas than we could work on it. So you coined an idea, we begin to work on it, and before we could finish it, you had a much better idea. So we dropped this one and started to work on something new. And of course, again, before we could finish, you had another great idea. So this is the degree. Can you take out? I have you. And somewhere inside. Maybe we have to put it this way. Yes. I can show it to you. And then to everybody. So, Zeddy, with this gown, you are part of the professoral body of the Pace University from now on.
I hope his teaching load is not too heavy.
I am going to travel here with my students.
You walk into a classroom in most parts of the world, and it's very little enjoyment and very little understanding that comes through. There are some isolated islands where it's getting better, and some of these are really scattered all over the world. And I think, I rather like to think that Hungary is one of the islands, or at least parts of Hungary. So that was that. So I put that as my aim, my life's aim, to make mathematics enjoyable and accessible to more people.
I learned so much through the way he talked to the children and his questioning. It was a transformative episode for me that day. I get excited about math. I was one of those students in school that endured math to when I left my teaching career after 30 years. Math was my favorite time of the day. Math and the excitement of math. So I'm here not only just as a representative, I'm here as one of those teachers that want to thank Dr. Dienes for the work that he has done. And I know that I have colleagues at the back that I'm looking at that would like to thank him too. My oldest son loved math so much, and working with Carter next door, that he is now a math teacher. And he did honors in math and loves math, and that is his career choice, is to be a math teacher. And for that, I thank you.
You let us play freely for a while, and you welcomed all of our comments, what we have made on the games. So we had the opportunity to discover all these kind of features, and later on, just to make a little bit more difficult these games, you implemented some kind of rules what we had to use during our game. And we got so involved in this kind of games that we forgot that we should have gone for a break. We forgot to eat. We even forgot to go to the next lesson. So our teacher had to go and ask for a special permission that when you are coming, we shouldn't follow the regular schedule of the day, but stay with you. And more than that, we went home and we tried to teach our parents what we have learned from you. So we were proudly said to our parents, look, we can count on our hand up to 32 or 31, only with our 5 fingers. And one of the father came to the school and said to our teacher, what are you doing here? I mean, these kids can count in a 2-based system, and in a 3-based system, and in a 4-based system. This is a university material. Is it not an elementary school? So that was the compliment for you, that you could take over all through these systems. And I became a math teacher. And when I started to teach, well, I looked through all the books, what I could have used for my students. And it took me a very short time to discover if I really would like to have the same fun on with my students, then I need to play the very same games what we have did together. And that was a very touching feeling as a beginner, as a new teacher, to get the joy from the kids right immediately. I really did not have to work hard for it. And that's because I was your student. And a few years later, I became a psychologist, and I started to work for an international consulting company. And I had to teach adults and managers. And that one day I had this idea when I went to our leadership training that why don't we learn how to cooperate as the managers through Dienes games? So that's what we have done. And these managers took the games home to their kids because they enjoyed the time together with us. So it's radiating. It goes from children to parents, parents to children. And I'm really happy that we had the luck to be part of this cycle. So I would like to say thanks to the University of Page that they acknowledge your contribution to the education. I would like to say thanks to the Acadia University. They hosted us here to have this nice celebration. And I would like to say thanks to you, Zed, that was one of the nicest presents in my life, that I could have you as a teacher. Congratulations.
Zoltán's daughter, and I did become a teacher. Seems to run in the family. My other sister's also a teacher, Jasmine, who couldn't be here today. I was just going to tell you a couple of little tiny stories, very quick, okay? So for the research I had to do for my teaching diploma, which is like postgraduate after my degree, I decided to research my dad, because I hadn't really read his books. So I started, avidly reading his books and wrote up my whole project, which was on teaching place value with the multi-base blocks. I had lots of fun throwing them on the floor, the kids playing with them and so forth. So when I handed it in, all the references were Zoltán, Dienes, Zoltán, Dienes, Zoltán, Dienes, maybe one or two others, because I was so excited by his work and I didn't feel a need to go and read very much else except a little bit of Piaget and a couple of other people. So I thought I did a really good job, but the professor who marked it didn't give me a very high mark because I didn't read anybody else, except for my dad. But I didn't care because I'd read his books and that was great. So just another little story. I was doing another project. I don't know if any of you have seen the story that Dad wrote called Bruce and Alice in Ruritania. This is about two children who get plane wrecked and they end up on this island called Ruritania, and every state operates on a different base. So if you're living in Freeland and you go shopping in Foreland, you have to know how to change your money from base 3 to base 4. So I was doing this story with a little girl, and we made 3-land money, and we did all kinds of things. We did shopping and, you know, base 3, and finally she just said to me, you know what? I just like base 3 so much better than base 10. So anyway, this is my dad, and he's wonderful, and I adore him, and thank you, Dad.
The last years of my life, without making it too long, I became a personal care worker. And I was asked to help Zoltán out to go swimming and get him to the pool and help him get dressed and undressed and so on. And I swam with him while he swam. And I'd spent some time at his house too. And of course, him being a mathematician, he wanted me, I explained to him already that my dad took me out of school in grade 7 and I'd begun farming since that time. And I said math was not my poor subject. And so of course, he gets me into these games that he made up, and he had it sitting on the table there. And quite a few days, he'd get me to do these games with him. And he says, you have a very analytical mind. I said, oh, really, thank you. So, anyways, I spent a lot of time with him on different subjects, and he told me many stories too. And he told me a lot of stories about doing with kids, like some people already had alluded to. And it was just a joy to hear him tell those stories. But when I heard the presentation here today, I realized I think he probably knew how his work was being distributed all over the world, but he never ever said anything to me about that. And so I found out today what really happened and what is really taking place, because he just didn't say that. He told me all kinds of stories, but he didn't say anything about how it was really taking effect on all over the place. And I'm thankful to hear that today, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you. Just spend time with you.
I met Zoltán where all the important people go on this campus, in the locker room, coming out of the pool with a collection of towels that I've never seen in my whole life. And for quite a while, we didn't say a word, until for some reason somebody said something in Italian. And then every day it was buongiorno and an Italian lesson from Il Maestro here. And my Italian has grown slightly since then. We recited the Divina Commedia together a few times. Nel mezzo del cammino di nostra vita mi ritrovai per una selva scura che la dritta mi era smarrita. And lasciate ogni speranza, all that stuff. And the other language that we had in common was Mozart.
Mille grazie, signore.
L'astro d'argento, la cida ronda, prospero il vento. Venite all'agile, barchetta mia, Santa Lucia, Santa Lucia, sul mare. Oh no, wait a minute. Dolce Napoli, oh suol beato, ove sorridere volle il creato. Venite all'agile, barchetta mia, Santa Lucia, Santa Lucia.